This episode of Tekzilla is sponsored by Netflix. A couple of weeks ago, we showed off Acer's rather pricey S5 Ultrabook, and it's I bet these won't last 3 years magic flip ports on the bottom side. Remember, you hit the button, and the ports come down, you hit the button, and the ports go up. Today, we got some new Ultrabooks for you. A dogpile brought to us by PC World's Loyd Case. And I was going to say, actually, first of all, I'll say welcome back,
Good to be
Loyd.
here. Yep.
I was going to say,
It's been a while.
Reasonably priced, and then you kind of laughed when I said that.
Only because I didn't really bring any reasonably priced ones. There are, Ultrabooks that are like under $800, $799. So you get some fairly reasonable priced ones if you're willing to live with fairly low resolution displays and Intel graphics and that kind of stuff.
Well, when we talk low resolution, how low resolution?
1366 by 768, not horribly low.
How 720p of them?
Yes.
So it's kind of funny. Like, we should talk about Ultrabooks. So it's Intel is irritated, I guess, because nobody other than Apple has a MacBook Air. They start pushing everybody to dump the spindle, make it lighter. Are these MacBook Air killers? Are they as good as the MacBook Air? Are they better?
If you're a Windows user, some of them are as good or better in terms of the hardware. We'll go through a couple samples. Some of them, the Ultrabook spec is kind of loose. I mean, it just says has to be thin and light, has to resume fast. A few very sort of.
Speaking of
I'm
which.
booting up. Anyway, so that's sort of spec. As we'll see from some samples, the spec does look kind of loose, but it works.
Should we talk about sort of? Can we make big general statements about the sort of battery life and performance, or should we take them notebook by notebook?
Yeah, they're all better than 5 or 6 hours. Okay. I mean, at least 5.5 hours typically. Some of them are as good as 7.5, 8 hours.
What are you seeing out of a typical full-size notebook these days?
You can get 8 hours out of a full-size notebook. See, when you get a full-size notebook, you start adding things like a discrete GPU, faster processor that aren't low voltage, a spindle that spins. So all those things eat up a little more power.
Are any of the Ultrabooks, because pretty much everybody has one, are any of them significantly faster than the others? They all have an SSD by the spec. They all probably have at least a Core i5.
Right. The fastest Core i7 low voltage is something like 2 gigahertz, and then it goes up to 2.9 or 3 on turbo mode.
Well, let's talk
and
about.
they're all dual core. There's no quad core runs, right? So.
Well. At this point, could you use a quad? Would a quad? I'm not even going to get into quad core, dual core. Let's talk about. Take a look at the first MacBook on there.
This is a first MacBook.
The first MacBook.
a little Freudian slip there.
Yeah, I'm going to get email from Intel later this month.
Anyway, this is an older one. This is a Samsung Series 9. The only thing interesting about this uses the last generation Intel processors. What this is the demo unit Microsoft is sending out for its Windows 8 RTM. It has a different trackpad that has edge detection, so you can do all those, Windows 8 swipes and all that kind of stuff. It's
a lovely notebook. Every time I pick one of these up, I want one. It feels lighter than my MacBook, my MacBook Air, even though I know it's not.
Yeah, it's a nice unit to use. 1600 by 900 display,
which is particularly awesome. What's the pricing on this?
I think they've dropped. It was really expensive when it originally came out. I think they've dropped the price. You can get them for some of the entry-level models for under $1,300 now. I think.
Nice.
So still pricey, but
still pricey. Somewhat heavier.
Yes, this is an Ultrabook. It kind of looks like a regular laptop, doesn't it? This is a Dell XPS 14, similar to something we got for my daughter for college. Very nice keyboard. That's the nice thing about this one. The keyboard's great. Yeah,
the keyboard's absolutely fantastic. It's got this sort of rubberized texture on the finish. Why is this so much heavier than everyone else's?
That's a good point. Well, they use this heavy metal chassis. I think they built this thing to sort of be and it's got glass, the Gorilla Glass all the way across instead of just to the bezel, right?
So the screen should hold up better because it's behind the Gorilla Glass. Are you concerned because, there almost feels like there's a good pound plus difference between the two of these.
This is 4.6 pounds.
So this is actually like full-size notebook.
Right, but it's actually got a rotating hard drive in it too.
Okay, so you have more storage. What's the weight on the Samsung?
3 pounds, just a shade over.
Wow, so it's only like it's only a pound and a half. But it feels so much heavier.
It does.
Do you expect a heavier?
This is a 14-inch display, by the way, not just 13.
Okay. So do you expect this to hold up better than some of the other Ultrabooks?
Possibly. I mean, it feels like really kind of beefy, but you never really know.
It turns out the plastic flex is better.
Right.
What does Asus bring?
This is what I've been using for work recently. What this brings is a 1080p IPS panel, so I use it as my mobile digital photography.
It's a gorgeous screen.
Yep. Decent enough keyboard, okay trackpad, but mainly it's a screen. That's really nice, and it is pretty damn light.
Yeah, this is a little bit heavier than the Samsung.
But only a little bit. It's still around the 3-pound weight mark.
Are all these running Core i7 processors?
The Samsung is running an older Core i5, previous generation. Both these are running Core i7s though.
How's the ThinkPad feeling?
And then the ThinkPad is also Core i7. This is a carbon fiber shell. That's the cool thing about it. So it feels a little less rigid, you know, but actually being carbon fiber, it flexes a little bit, but it's still pretty solid.
Are you worried about the sort of long, I mean, I don't know if you can kind of see this, but that's a lot of flex in a lid.
Yeah, but the thing about carbon fiber is that it'll flex, but it's hard to break.
Okay. So it's going to protect, my screen's not going to be broken just if I pull down.
A couple other cool things. This is the only unit that's got integrated 3G. So it'll, you know, cellular broadband if you want that, but only 3G, not 4G. Very nice Lenovo keyboard, 14-inch display. Still weighs 3 pounds.
It's incredibly light.
Yeah, that's the carbon fiber helping out.
So which one, if you were going to spend your money today, which one of these would you buy? Would you buy any of these?
You know, if I was going to buy one today, it would probably be between one of these two, or possibly, which I couldn't bring it with me, the Vizio 14-inch, which is a really minimalist, nice unit that I like a lot too.
What's is Vizio doing a good job with their? Because Vizio, we know them from HD TVs, and suddenly we want to move to notebooks because the margins are better, which is hysterical.
Vizio has done some really interesting things in sort of keeping sort of the minimalist ethic they've done with their HD TVs as well. So you won't find a lot of luxuries like extra ports and stuff like that. But what is there works pretty well.
So the Vizio, Lenovo's ThinkPad, and then Asus's Ultrabook. Those are kind of your top.
Those are sort of my favorites right now, yeah.
Any thoughts on like a good, you know, going back to school $500 notebook, or is that just too little to spend on a notebook?
Well, $500 you can get a relatively decent notebook, but it's going to weigh, you know, 5.5, 6.5 pounds.
Remember when that used to be light?
Yeah.
Got a minute for a gaming notebook question?
I do.
John wrote in, I'm planning on buying a new gaming laptop in the next month or so. This will be solely a gaming rig. Crysis, Codemasters Dirt 2 and 3, Fear, etc. in the $4,000+ price range. Wow. And I'm unsure which Intel Core i7 processor choice will be worth my money since I want this rig to last many years. Assuming all other specs are equal, some PC gaming laptops use mobile processors, others use desktop processors. Is there a big enough difference to worry about? And for gaming, is it worth spending $650+ extra for the Intel Extreme Edition Core i7, or just stick with the highest Core i7 right below the Extreme models, writes John in Concord, New Hampshire.
Let's work backwards.
Okay.
First question is, no, it's not worth getting an Extreme Edition processor.
Right.
The only thing that gives you is some level of overclocking in a mobile processor, and some manufacturers will ship with it overclocked. Doesn't help that much in games, though.
Right.
No.
He mentioned dual 680M.
Right. See, the one
seems overkill
the one
for a
little
notebook.
secret, the sort of dirty secret that the GPU vendors don't tell you, is that the model numbers of the laptop GPUs are not equivalent to the desktop ones. So a 680M is more like a desktop 660. In terms of the number of cores and all that stuff. So getting two of them is not necessarily a bad thing if it's really your primary gaming laptop.
So, but for the screen, you're probably feeding on it.
Yeah, 17-inch screen typically.
Is the resolution going to be high enough to warrant that kind of GPU
well,
horsepower?
you see, remember you're running the equivalent of a single 680 and a 1080p display. Doesn't mean if it's his primary gaming system, he may be hooking up to bigger display too. So if you want to drive one of those, you want that.
So if you have all the money to spend, get the dual 680s.
Right. Yeah, not the higher end. In fact, I would sacrifice a processor grade for better graphics.
So the 680 GTX-M, is that the top line?
GTX 680M, yeah, that's the top of the line right now.
Would you go with the least expensive Core i7? Is there any point in spending the extra money?
I would spend a little more, but I wouldn't get the Extreme Edition. That's what I'd step back from.
So is it worth getting a gaming notebook from a boutique vendor or a gaming vendor? Because we were talking about this before the show. A friend of mine recently bought an Alienware. He bought it maxed out. The first one arrived dead on arrival. The second one arrived with a cheaper graphics card instead of the one he spec'd, and the wrong Wi-Fi module.
Well, I mean, he just had some bad luck, I think, more than anything, because that hasn't been the experience I've had with other users have had.
Okay.
I think we have to remember, though, Alienware is really Dell. It's not, strictly speaking, a boutique vendor. But yeah, the thing about the boutique vendors, the Origins and those kind of companies, all their gaming laptops are essentially the same chassis that they OEM. So they're not very different from each other, except for the stuff they add into it and support.
Do you expect the service and support to be better from one of the smaller vendors?
It really depends on the company.
Okay.
So I can't give you a blanket statement about that.
Oh, just checking on that one. Would you bother buying an official gaming notebook, or just try to get the GPU configuration?
Well, you can't get these high-end GPUs unless it's labeled a gaming notebook. I haven't seen one that's not labeled a gaming notebook that has a 680M, for example.
So you were boxed in the gaming notebook
What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't get one of those monsters that has a desktop processor in it. I mean, you're going to have like an hour battery battery life. You may never use it on a battery, but it's still nice to know that, like the Alienware, the R4, there's the 17R4, yes, it's called, 17X. Anyway, it has like a 5-hour battery life.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Loyd Case, awesome information as always.
All right.
What's coming up on PC World?
Well, we've got our Windows 8 coverage happening. We've got some new stuff happening next week. Go check the site starting Monday because we got some nifty new redesigns and cool stuff to show you.
PCWorld.com next week. People, check it out and keep looking for Loyd's reviews up there. They are good stuff. Now, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Carbonite. Insurance is something you never hope to use, but it's comforting to know that you have it. That's why there's Carbonite Online Backup. Carbonite Online Backup is automatic cloud backup of your important computer files. Just set it up once and Carbonite's going to protect your computer files so you can stay focused on running your life. No hardware required, no crazy maintenance. It's really simple. And Carbonite even makes getting your backed up files back super easy. You can access your backed up files on a smartphone or iPad with the free Carbonite app. And if you're not convinced, how about this? A free trial. Go to Carbonite.com, use the offer code Tekzilla, and you'll get 2 bonus months if you decide to buy. Carbonite.com for awesome online backup, and Tekzilla is the offer code for 2 bonus months. You'll be protecting your data, and you'll be helping out Tekzilla. This is good stuff, people.